All right, folks. Hello and welcome back to online English class. Hope you guys are doing well today. Today we're going to be completing our work on OTN 6, which analyzes the end of Part 2, Chapters 9 through 10. We're going to be looking at the back half of the scene of Winston and Julia's arrest. Yesterday we talked about the apex of Winston's rebellion as he meditates on the significance of the Red-Armed Prole Woman's song directly prior to his arrest. Today we're going to be talking about the significance of the arrest and the ways in which Winston and Julia are arrested changes the nature, changes the way that we look at and understand Winston's rebellion as a whole. Okay, before we do that, let's just quickly remind ourselves of our top of the week announcements. Okay, so first and foremost, you need to remember your discussion grade procedure. You guys know what to do. Enough on that. All right, maintain consistency in your reading. For Part 3, Chapters 1 through 3, that's going to be due Monday of next week. Don't forget your reading check for that. You also need to have already sent in confirmation of OTNs 2, 3, and 4. If you have not done so, then that is late. You need to continue completing your OTNs as we complete them in class. All right, today you should finish OTN 6. All right, we are completing OTN 6 today, so you should finish OTN 6. And then contextualizing all this is your continued work on your Quarter 4 essay, which is due anytime from May 18th to May 22nd. All right, so let's go ahead and return to OTN 6, Part 2, Chapters 9 through 10. Okay, so yesterday we talked about the section of the novel that is devoted to the description of Winston's full understanding of the significance of the Red-Armed Prole Woman's song. It is not just merely something that he views as beautiful, not just merely something that he delights in, but rather something that testifies to the larger beauty and inherent value of the human life and the human experience as a whole. Okay, whether past, present, or future, human beings are created or endowed with certain inalienable kinds of value. That's what Winston is starting to or realize in this apex moment of his rebellion. Now, why is that the apex of his rebellion? Because it means that rebelling against the party and rebelling against tyranny in general, rebelling against powers that deny human beings the opportunity to be and do and live how they were made to be and live. And the things that they were made to do. Tyrannical forms of oppression that deny the human being the opportunity to experience the blessedness of being fully human and pursuing the goodness that all of that entails are always, whether from the past or the present or the future, worthy of rebelling against and worthy of fighting against. And moreover, okay, listen, moreover, the fact that human beings are endowed, okay, intrinsically, okay, you guys understand that? It's not, it's essential. It's something that is endowed or intrinsically true of human beings, that their lives are valuable, that they pursue and create beauty, that they desire to live in rational worlds, that the fact that that exists in the human heart, the fact that that is what a human being has been made to do and to be, is a transcendent historical reality. It is true both in the past, present, and future. And so therefore, the party, although it may rule and reign for a very, very long time, will not rule and reign forever and is not omnipotent because, all right, the human spirit, which is eternal, will overcome the party, which is essentially and inherently temporal. Okay? So, that moment in his rebellion is the apex of his thought crime. It is a moment where his rebellion, just check out these pictures, okay? Maybe this will help you understand it a little more clearly, or if you already do, just give you something, a different way of thinking about it, okay? In part 1, Winston affirms the fact that his life is valuable, and the party's dehumanizing treatment of him is unjust, okay? In part 2, that begins to expand, right? It expands to his relationship with someone else that he grows to love, Julia, in which they affirm that their lives, all right, as a couple, their lives are valuable, and the party's dehumanizing treatment of them, those two, is unjust, and therefore they rebel against it. Okay, as part 2 develops, he begins to be connected to O'Brien, all right, and the rest of the Brotherhood, who are unified by the book. Okay, so they're all around the table together, like Knights of the Round Table, collectively bound together by a kind of essential belief that human beings have been created and designed to live in reasonable societies. Okay, and in this portion of the narrative, Winston and Julia are collectively affirming, along with O'Brien, that our society, our current historical moment, is inhabited by people whose lives are valuable, and the party's dehumanizing treatment of our society as a whole, of it, is unjust. And then finally, all right, presently, at the very end of his rebellion, he comes to this much more global kind of understanding that all human life, that it is self-evidently true that all human life is valuable, both past, present, and future, and the party's dehumanizing treatment of human beings in general is unjust today and always, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Okay, so it is exactly at this point that Winston's rebellion is interrupted. He hears a voice speak out from the telescreen that is hidden behind the picture of St. Clement's, a church, right? And that picture says, "You are the dead." All right, the telescreen speaks out and says, "You are the dead." The picture falls off the wall. It uncovers a telescreen behind it. All right, the glass paperweight that symbolizes the sort of private life of Winston and Julia that he has in Mr. Charrington's room is smashed on the ground. The fragment of coral, this little symbolic representative of Winston's innermost heart, is crushed and destroyed. And violently kicked away. Okay, and then finally, it becomes clear that the agent that is responsible for their arrest is Mr. Charrington. All right, Mr. Charrington, who was disguised as this humble shop owner who valued the privacy of Winston and Julia, is revealed to be a member of the Thought Police. Okay, so all of these, this scene basically throws Winston's rebellion in an entirely new light. Okay, so in conclusion of our work here, I'm going to spell out the ways in which each aspect of Winston's rebellion changes its meaning upon his arrest. Okay, so first of all, his journal. All right, in part 1, his journal is a private record of his independent, sane thoughts. From these thoughts, all manner of rebellion spring. Okay, he begins to believe that the party is not in control of metaphysical reality, of essences, but rather that there is objective truth that can be known. And one of those objective truths he significantly comes to is that human life is inherently valuable, and that human beings were created or endowed with certain rights to be free. Right? This journal, this record of private thoughts, is the beginning of his rebellion. Okay, a kind of record of the injustices of the party and his own sane thoughts. But, all right, by the end of part 2, it becomes clear that that journal was sold to him by Mr. Charrington. Okay, Mr. Charrington sold him the journal, and it also becomes clear that in the Thought Police's use of Winston's prophetic dreams, which he had written about in the journal, all right, the Thought Police used those dreams and then organize events in Winston's life to allow those dreams to come true. His dreams about the Golden Country come true. His dreams about O'Brien saying things like, "We will meet again in the place where there is no darkness." His premonitions about him developing a relationship with O'Brien, they have been read by the Thought Police after Mr. Charrington has sold the journal to Winston, which is, again, an illegal act. So he follows him, he begins watching him, and then tracks Winston's thought crime, and then organizes Winston's environment so as to allow those prophetic dreams to come true. So those prophetic dreams, which seemed like Winston's subconscious like supernatural awareness that the circumstances of his rebellion are leading to a kind of inevitable redemption of the world that he is coming to, were simply controlled by the party. They were used by the party to give Winston a false sense of hope. Okay? It also becomes clear that the party has allowed Julia and Winston to develop their love affair. Okay, that the party has watched and allowed Julia and Winston to live the blessed life that they desired to live. All right, allowing them, among other things, to physically express the goodness and pleasure and to celebrate the value of human life by loving one another together. Okay, Winston's unnatural hatred for women and life in general is corrected by this love affair. His unorthodox hatred for Big Brother is allowed temporarily by Mr. Charrington and the thought police in general. Okay, so this love, which is an expression of Winston and Julia's freedom, becomes something that was allowed or under the control of the party the whole time. All right, similarly, the glass paperweight, sold to Winston by who? Mr. Charrington. This object, which symbolized all throughout part 1 and part 2 Winston's hope that human beings can remain human despite the dehumanizing environment that they live in, that they are thrown into. This kind of thrownness, all right, that Winston is threatened by, okay? But if he can maintain the freedom of his innermost heart, he can subvert the power of the party, that he can build a kind of atmosphere, a world of his own, all right? And that paperweight is conflated with or combined with Winston's understanding of the sort of sanctuary, right? Like the picture of St. Clement's Dane Church, a kind of sanctuary, a place where faith and belief still live on, a private space where his private heart is protected and his private loves are pursued. That's what Mr. Charrington's room, very much like the glass paperweight, means. But once again, all right, Mr. Charrington's room and the glass paperweight was given to him by the thought police in order to cultivate his rebellion, in order to deepen his rebellion, in order to allow him to pursue his freedom while simultaneously under their control. All right. Winston's enjoyment of the Pearl Woman's song, which he believes to be an example of beauty created by uneducated, oppressed members of the working class. The beauty of the song, the beauty of the singing of the song juxtaposes the lyrics of the song, which are actually about hopelessness. It was only a hopeless fancy, right? They've stolen my heart away. The hopelessness and loss of the lyrics of the song are overcome by, okay, and subverted by the singing of the song, which edifies this distinctly human freedom, this ability to create beauty. All right. And then finally, directly prior to his arrest, Winston views this Pearl woman, all right, as a symbol of the beauty and inherent value of all human life. Okay. So, in other words, here, once again, the party and Mr. Charrington have allowed Winston to believe and engage with this beauty, okay, while under their control. They've allowed him to do that, okay? Finally, his relationship with O'Brien, his engagement or enlistment in the Brotherhood, and his reading of Goldstein's books were all done while under the observation of the thought police. They allowed him to do these things, right? His reading of Goldstein's books, which leads this kind of apex moment in Winston's outward rebellion, right, which combines Winston's inward, original psychological rebellion with an intellectual tradition that is actively opposed to the party, okay, which Winston feels as like he's in a kind of heaven. He's in a world as it should be when he's reading it, and it leads him to understand and to reflect on the beauty of human life as a whole. Remember, those reflections come directly after he is woken up from reading that book, all right? Ultimately, all of these things were done while under the control of the party, while under the gaze of the thought police. O'Brien, as you should already probably know by now, is a member of the Thought Police as well. In fact, he's in charge of them. And the Brotherhood is a fiction created by O'Brien, and Goldstein's book was written by O'Brien. Just as the glass paperweight was given to Winston, just as Mr. Charrington's room was a trap for Winston, just as Julie and Winston's love, which was an expression of freedom, was done only insofar as they were given permission to by the party, just as the prophetic dreams were not indeed prophecies, okay, but rather just simple staged interactions by the party in which Winston was simply a puppet performing a pre-prescribed role for him as rebel made for him by the party. The journal was given to him not as an expression of his free thought, but rather as an expression of the extent to which the party controlled his mind. Okay, all of the aspects of Winston's rebellion, okay, we understand now how all of his rebellion led to his arrest and how the thought police and the party were in control of all of the elements of his rebellion. They were indeed in control of Winston's actions. But we do not yet know why. Why are they doing this? Why did they allow Winston to experience such freedom? Why did they allow Winston to come to these climactic understandings of the beauty of all human life? Why would they explain the insanity of their own party ideology in a book that O'Brien, a member of the inner party, a member of the thought police, wrote in order to tempt rebels? Why did they allow Julia and Winston to experience this deeply human emotion, this deeply human experience, being loved and loving another, if the party is the enemy of love? Why? What motivates this activity? Part 3 is going to explore the answer to that question. All right? And in doing so, it is going to explore the true significance of Winston's rebellion. Okay, so just as a spoiler, right? Winston is not going to escape the ministry of love and find out Goldstein's actually real and kill Big Brother with a heavy machine gun, and Rambo's are going to come and play along, right? Rather, Winston is going to go and be tortured in the ministry of love. And O'Brien, his primary torturer, is going to explain to him why they are doing what they are doing and why they allowed him to experience freedom in order to deepen his understanding of the Central Party slogan, freedom is slavery. All right, we'll be talking about this next week. Hope you have a great day.